Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of The Lovable Madman. Today we're going to be taking a look at Lauren Bouchard's annual attempt to create a Thanksgiving jingle that'll rival those that are sung at Christmas. That's right, today I'm ranking my top 10, or I guess the 10, Bob's Burgers Thanksgiving episodes. Much like when I ranked their Halloween episodes, this list is based purely on my opinion and how much I enjoy watching each of these episodes. So with that said, let's dive on in. Number 10, Diarrhea of a Booby Kid. So this episode sees Gene quarantined in the bathroom after his family fears he got the stomach flu and they don't want to catch it from him. This upsets Gene because he was really looking forward to the new and innovative ways that Bob was making the Thanksgiving dinner. Tina and Louise try and cheer him up by telling him stories that'll make him hate food. This episode serves kind of a dual role within season 11. Not only is it their annual Thanksgiving episode, but it's also like the series of 3 anthology episode that they always throw in every season. I don't think this is the best example of either one. Obviously on the Thanksgiving side, it's dead last in my rankings. The episode itself is fine. None of the jokes really stuck with me. I mean, the stories are fun, but my issues come with Gail is there, but she never has like a big Gail moment. And 2, Gene has an Oedipus complex. Number 9, Gail Macon, bobsled. So this episode sees Gail claim that she hurt her legs and needs to be picked up. Bob drives over to get her, and his car is then buried by snow from a snowplow. And Gail makes him drag her through the snow in the kiddie pool she uses to shave her legs. Meanwhile, Linda and the Belcher kids are panic making Thanksgiving dinner so that they have it. They, of course, botch it, and that's the episode. I mean, it's a pretty funny episode, kind of all the way through. There's a lot of, like, Gail moments, which was sort of my complaint that the last entry on this list was lacking, but in the end, there are funnier episodes, and I just don't really have much to say about this one. Number 8, I Bob Your Pardon. This episode sees the Belchers go to the city hall to watch the mayor pardon the turkey Drew P. Neck from ever appearing as a part of a Thanksgiving meal. However, the real mayor isn't there, so the deputy mayor does it instead. In secret after the pardoning, he tells his assistant that the sanctuary they were going to send Drew P. to is full and instead he needs to be taken to the slaughterhouse. The Belcher kids overhear this and along with a reporter convince their parents to mount a rescue of Drew P. Neck and expose the corruption in the mayor's office. This episode is pretty good and pretty funny all the way through. However, for me, there's no real joke or anything that kind of stands out, but it beats out the last entrance because it has a unique story structure to it. Number 7, Now We're Not Cooking with Gas. In this episode, both Bob and Tina have something very special that they want to share with the rest of the family. Tina has this tree from like her Thunder Girl troupe, and she's given the Belchers a leave to write down something that is important to them so they can add it to the tree at the end of the day. Bob, meanwhile, has received a Heritage Farms turkey that he's been waiting 5 years to get. Unfortunately for Bob, the gas in their apartment and their restaurant go out, and so they have to get creative with how they're going to cook this bird. They end up making a makeshift fire spit in the alleyway behind their restaurant. Now, this episode is less funny than some of the others, even the ones I've already mentioned, but it's a lot more heartfelt. Just the willingness of the Belchers to stand outside in the cold with Bob all day while he makes this turkey of their way to do their best to help him. And at the end of the day, it pays off, and they have a really well-cooked turkey. Tina, meanwhile, does eventually convince the family to fill out their leaves, and the important thing they all put down was each other. Number 6. Thanks hoarding. In this episode, Teddy is informed that he is going to be hosting Thanksgiving dinner for his mom and his sister. He, of course, starts freaking out because he's never done it before. He's not a cook, so he asks Bob for help. And while Bob is trying to teach him what to do in the kitchen, Linda and the kids discover Teddy's dining room and that he's a hoarder. They help him clear out some of this stuff, which doesn't help with his anxiety because getting over hoarding is hard. Anyway, they get it all set up for him with very specific instructions and timing and all this. And the next day is Thanksgiving, and Bob is disappointed in the meal that he made for his family. Teddy calls again, still freaking out, having worried he messed up the cooking. Bob sees this as his shot at redemption, and the family returns to help Teddy with his food and his hoarding and getting rid of all this stuff. Teddy's family calls and cancels on him, and the Belchers have a second Thanksgiving meal. This episode is really funny all the way through, and each character gets a really great moment to shine, whether it's the kids looking for the best thing or Bob trying to teach Teddy what a carrot peeler is. Number 5, Stuck in the Kitchen with You. This is the most recent Thanksgiving episode, and it has the Belchers going to the elegant doily retirement home in order to give back to the community. Once they get there, Linda sees their friend/acquaintance Sergeant Bosco arguing with his mother, and she decides to make peace between them. One of the employees at the retirement home says that the chef bailed on them and asks if literally anyone knows how to cook a turkey. Bob, of course, steps in and says that he knows how. He's told not to go overboard and just to heat up the turkey and make some mashed potatoes. Bob decides that going overboard for Thanksgiving doesn't exist and makes pretty much every dish you can imagine, with Louise as his reluctant helper. Gene and Tina discover Zeke is there visiting his grandmother. However, their TV is broken and the residents want to watch the Thanksgiving Day parade. Zeke, Tina, and Gene decide to put on a parade for the residents themselves. This episode is pretty great all the way through and lets each Belcher have kind of a great little moment throughout the episode. Number 4, Dawn of the Pack. In this episode, the Fishoder brothers decide to hold a running of the turkeys, similar to the running of the bulls, but with turkeys. 4 of the 5 Belchers decide that they would rather go do this than have a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, and Bob actually takes this fairly well.
No, you're crying!
The Belchers get down to the Wonder Wharf, and Felix reveals that not only did he get turkeys, but he also had to get chicken and geese because turkeys are rare this time of year for some reason. Anyway, the birds are released, and because of the mixed species flock, the pecking order was completely out of whack, and the birds ended up taking over the Wonder Wharf and Ocean Avenue, turning the town into a post-apocalyptic hellscape. This episode is utterly hilarious from beginning to end, and has some really great and iconic moments, such as the kids being stuck on the scrambled pan to Bob giving an impassioned speech to his turkey baster. Number 3, the Quirkducers. Louise wants her half day from school. Unfortunately, Mr. Frond always puts on a Thanksgiving Day play that is long and boring and turns her half day into a full day, and she is sick of it. So she decides to take matters into her own hands by usurping one of Tina's erotic friend fictions, the Quirky Turkey. She convinces Mr. Frond to let them put it on without telling him that the play is going to be so offensive that he'll have no choice but to shut it down. This episode is pretty good from beginning to end, and all the supplemental characters add something and are pretty hilarious. Tina is confident and really gets a chance to shine in this episode with that, which is really great to see since she's such a quiet character. Plus, Tammy and Jocelyn's interview with Mr. Frond is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, and definitely helped bump this episode up a couple of places. Number 2, Turkey in a Can. This episode sees Gail coming to stay with the Belchers with all 3 of her cats, much to Bob's displeasure since he's allergic to them. However, he's not going to let that stop him from creating the perfect 3-day brine. Unfortunately, that night, there is murder most foul, as when he wakes up the next morning, Bob finds his perfectly brined turkey in the toilet. Everyone assumes that Louise did it, and they start to move on. Louise, however, claims innocence and says that she's going to find the real culprit herself. This episode is great and is full of iconic scenes for the show, and it gives every character something to do without detracting from anyone else or the plot. Bob and Louise are each on their own path to find whoever's dropping all of his turkeys into toilets. Jean, Gail, and Linda are busy writing a Thanksgiving song that'll become a classic, and I think what they come up with is. And Tina, who is growing up, is determined to sit at the adults' table this year. This episode is great, and it could have been the perfect Bob's Burgers Thanksgiving episode, if not for one other one. And finally, at number 1, we have an indecent Thanksgiving proposal. That's right, my favorite Thanksgiving episode is also their first. Mr. Fischoeder hires the Belchers to pretend to be his family in order to woo the woman of his dreams, a sharpshooter named Shelby. The kids compete for tickets in order to pick out a prize, and Linda gags nearly every time she has to pretend to be Fischoeder's wife. Bob, meanwhile, was hired as the cook and has his friend Lance, the turkey, guide him through the entire thing, along with an entire bottle of absinthe. Every scene in this episode is just classic and iconic Bob's Burgers. From the kids trying to compete with each other, to Shelby shooting at everything, to Bob and Lance's development and friendship. This episode is just, it's perfect, and I love it. And if it had been the only Thanksgiving episode they did, I wouldn't have missed that they didn't do any more. I would have found it a little odd, but I wouldn't have missed it. Perhaps maybe one of Lauren Bouchard's many Thanksgiving songs will catch on, and we'll start hearing them on the radio, or singing along in the car, or at least finish them every time we watch a Bob's Burgers Thanksgiving episode. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and let me know what your favorite Bob's Burgers Thanksgiving episode is, or your favorite Thanksgiving episode from any TV show. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, and if you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe. Today's trivia: the kids' school, Wagstaff, is named after the Groucho Marx character from Horse Feathers, Professor Quigley Wagstaff. Thank you all for watching, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Pass the cranberry sauce. We're having mashed potatoes. Ooh, the turkey looks great. Thank you for loving me.
When?
Thank you for being there.
Please.
Thank you for loving me. Everyone's thanking. The whole
When?
world's thanking you. Thanking
Stop.
us for thanking you. Kill the turkey.